Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, and the mic is just getting warmed up as the guardian of the blue paint turned writer is about to enlighten us. The show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. For this week's show, avoiding the money pits. For the Flyers, it's a continuing mission. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc. Join Lance and Steel as we bring you all the latest on the Flyers.
Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of the Hockey Writers Inc. As always, I'm your host, Lance Green.
And I'm your co-host, SteelFlyers. And boy, oh boy, we got another great one here for you today, folks. And I can't even begin to tell you how exciting this is because 35th episode. How about that? Wow.
Yeah, racking them up.
Racking them up for sure. And this one here is not going to be any different than any of the other ones that you've seen, that's for sure. Avoiding the money pits. For the Flyers, it's a continuing mission. That's the title for this week's show. And we are going to jump right in because we got a lot to get to. And we got a real special segment here later on here for you too later on. So you got to be sure to check that out too. So Lance, thanks for hopping in. Thanks for being the host. Thanks for being the man. Thanks for doing the articles. Thanks for doing this. Very much appreciated.
No problem.
Got it. All right. Here we go. Posted just the other day on FlyersNittyGritty.com on the website. Misappropriation of funds and how the Flyers can avoid making those same mistakes again. And folks, look. This is just a must-read material right here. Okay? I mean, seriously, this could not have come out at a more perfect time as well. Like we're at, the Stanley Cup finals are coming into the final couple of games here, and the expansion draft lists have to be due on the 17th. The expansion draft is on the 21st. The regular draft is on the 23rd and the 24th. Lots of stuff coming up here real soon. Today is the 1st of July. Okay, so Lance, this article, man, I'll tell you what, like I said, this was another great article, perfect timing for this. And look, you and I both know that Ed Snider wanted nothing more than to win. That's all Ed Snider cared about. So to that end, everything that he did was to try to get back to that, with Shiro and the gang and this 2 Stanley Cups, and everything he did was to try to get back to that, right? Okay. Right. And sometimes to a fault that, that at any cost that he would, right? I mean, that was his mantra. At any cost, whatever it takes, do it. Right? This was the team. This is, let's go. We're trying to win. Lance, what's different now?
I think what's different now is it's not owned by a person with such a passion anymore. It's owned by a business. Its main purpose is now to make money, and what I'm talking about is the team. So as long as the team is making money, which we all know, even if the Flyers are falling on hard times, us Philadelphia fans are gonna want to come in and see the Flyers and pay money that we work so hard for to do so. That money has been misappropriated as of recent times, and we've had to bite the bullet on some really bad contracts before, and some that come to mind to say is Brzgalov's 9-year deal that was signed for $51 million.
Still paying that guy, right? Like I think we're still paying him for another year or two, I think, right?
And we had to buy him out, yeah. So we're still having to pay him. And then we went out and got a guy in Andrew McDonald, which was similar fates that we gave him a 6-year, $30 million deal, and we ended up having to buy him out. And Paul Holmgren did it again when he went out and tried to get relive that same mantra that you were talking about and get that once great player in Vincent Lecavalier was one of my favorite players, not on the
Oh yeah,
Flyers before that.
yeah.
A guy who's very physical and, would drop the gloves and score all the goals and do everything you needed him to do. But the team signed him to a 5-year deal at $22.5 million when he was 33 years old after getting bought out by the Tampa Bay Lightning. So definitely some bad contracts being handed out in the past, as well, and that was mostly from the Paul Holmgren era, but Hextall did some pretty bad stuff as well in his time, in his reign, and some of those, being trading Scott Hartnell a little too early in my mind for a
Yeah.
broken down RJ Umberger,
Hamburger
who we
for a
still
more
had to
expensive
pay,
contract. Yeah.
right? Who we still had to pay $4.6 million and later bought out, and just
I'm noticing a
Hextall's,
theme.
yes, and Hextall's signing of players that were insignificant, mediocre guys who, like, again and again and again, he brought back Micah Northroth, and brought in guys like Roman Lumphier, Carlo Kokovo, Evgeny Medvedev, like all kinds of
Oh
guys that
yeah.
are just horrible, horrible guys that didn't work out, but scraped them off the bottom of the free agent boards and just brought them in and they didn't fit. They didn't fit. We overpaid, and it seems to be a thing that is still going on in the current roster.
You know what I mean? It's like, look, as you so aptly point out, the Flyers have continued to overspend, for not top of the line talent.
Yes.
I could understand if the owner at the time, Ed Snyder, comes to the general manager and says, "You do whatever you have to do to get me a number one goalie."
And I think he did that. I think he did that in the past with Brizgalov.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't think that, they went out and got Bob, and they had Bob before that, but he was still a young goaltender coming over from Russia. I think Bob had a decent rookie year, but he didn't excel at the rate that Ed Snyder needed him to. I think he was at that point and he was fed up with not having a goaltender, and he told Paul Holmgren to go out and get him the best
Yeah.
available goaltender at that time, and which it wasn't a great market that year. So he went out and overspent to get Brizgalov, and that failed on its face. But Ed Snyder, told him, I believe that's all me, but I believe he went out and told him to do that because he was frustrated. And
Yeah.
then, there was no need for necessarily for Bob to stay around, and they got rid of him for another piece, and that didn't turn too out good for the Flyers in that decision either.
Look, it the list is as long as my arm for the players that the Flyers have spent for, and then ones that they should have gotten, they didn't get,
Right.
and ones that they did get, they shouldn't get, because then they overspend for it, right? And then, right, here's the best part. Here's my favorite part about this whole situation. Now the Flyers end up being the farm team for the NHL, where guys that the Flyers should be re-signing that don't re-sign get signed by other teams and get their name on the cup. I mean, how many ex-Flyers in the last 10 years have their name on the cup?
Yeah.
I mean, it can't just be me that sees this, right?
Nope. Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the current roster now, some examples that I pointed out in the article were Giroux and Voracek,
Yeah.
who make a crazy amount of money for their production. Not saying anything about the players and their talent. They've been productive over the years, but at over $8 million a year, I don't believe that they're playing in their pay grade. There's so many different players in
Yeah.
that same atmosphere
See,
that are elite, and I don't consider either one of those to be elite. Combined, I think I think Giroux was what, the 30th and 31st, those two guys in the whole entire league, they were paid as high. But if you look at guys similar, um, you know, Sidney
you mean
Crosby's
similar in money?
similar in money, financial gains there. Sidney Crosby is the 27th ranked when Drew and Voracek are the 30th and 31st in the league overall paid. Okay, so not too much difference there, right? Only a few 100,000 more gets paid than them, but he has like a fraction, maybe a couple of goals, handful of goals over his time in his career scored uh, more than both or just shy of Drew and Voracek's goal totals put together, if
Yeah, I
that
know.
makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
He's scoring at a rate of over 1.27 points per game. And that's the atmosphere that they're getting paid around. And Voracek's is only at 0.762, which is still nothing to sneeze at here.
No.
But does it justify being paid like those top end guys? Some other players in that same ranking are Steven Stamkos and Leon Draisaitl. Both of those guys are getting paid around the same money, but both of those guys are consistent in their play and goal scoring and
The number of points.
100
Yeah,
point seasons over
yeah,
and over again, or
yeah, yeah,
60 goal years.
yeah.
Um, you know, this is, Draisaitl is one of the best players in the league, and he's getting paid, 8.5 million. Just a fraction over what these guys are doing. And that's fine if you have one of those type players, but both Giroux and Voracek are the same player in my mind, which is a pass first player.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a problem. You should have used that money again to get a yin to their yang and get a scorer, an elite goal scorer, and that.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
they didn't.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
didn't.
No, I'm with you on
So
that. I see. This is where I believe that Giroux, Voracek, those types of players in that generation are getting those contracts because they didn't get them when they were younger. They were part of that old guard that, like, you come into the league, you get your ELC, right, which is whatever minimums, whatever 900 and some $1,000 for the year, and you do that for 3 years. You play for in the league now for a couple years, you get that bridge deal where you maybe make $1, $2, $3 million a year. You know what I mean? And then by the time you get to like your fourth year in the league, that's when you get the money. That's when the big contract should be coming, because that's when you should be hitting your stride. You should be at that prime time point in your career. You know what I'm saying? And that's how hockey has kind of been formulated. But it just seems like it's different now, where guys are much better, much sooner, much younger, where you don't have to wait that bridge deal anymore. You know what I mean? Where guys are able to come into the league now and they're hitting the ground running.
Well, I think they're getting the opportunity to do so, whereas earlier they weren't, because now we are in a salary cap era, and we have to watch what the teams are spending. So teams are having to be forced to throw some younger players in with the rest of the veterans because they can't pay all the veterans the same. But that's great. But the Flyers overpay people that they essentially shouldn't. Now, let me give you another example here as to what I mean. Kevin Hayes, one of my favorite players on the team, essentially because he's a big body center. He played
and
most of this.
Favorite.
Right. He played most of this year hurt. Okay. I believe he was brought in to kind of help the transition of AV's new system, which he already knew.
Completely agree.
But the team shelled out a 7-year, $50 million contract for him. $50 million contract for him. That's $7+ million a year, 7.14 a year to be exact. Okay, that's great, but let's look at that compared to other contracts around the league. Now, Kevin Hayes is an established player when he came to the Flyers, no doubt, but was he worth $7 million? Let's take a look at this. You have a 4-time Frank J. Selke Trophy Award winner in Patrice Bergeron, who plays on the first line, an amazing line in Boston, and he only gets paid $6.8 million a year. Now, Kevin Hayes is a second line center getting paid $7 million plus. Does that make sense? Not to me. I don't get that. Where are they basing these contracts off of? I would like to know, because this guy is an elite player in Bergeron who's been doing it consistently year in and year out, has won numerous trophies and a Stanley Cup to go along with it. And the Flyers overpay for that.
What's Hayes won?
Right. What's Hayes won? What has Hayes done to do that? Now, you even look at guys like Matthew Barzal and Braden Point, who are younger than Hayes, but are already, like you said, consistently bringing their team to the extending playoff runs every year, year in and year out, and they're paid less than him. So where do they base these contracts off of? Where did they get 7.14 a year for Kevin Hayes? I would like to know.
Now, let me tell you something, Mr. Green. It's not that big of a dome scratcher. Seriously, because it's the agent of Mr. Hayes coming to the management of the Philadelphia Flyers and saying, if you want Kevin Hayes, this is how much it's going to cost. Thank you, click. And the Flyers are like, okay, here you go. I mean,
but why? Because
okay.
I mean,
that I can't answer. I can only go based off of what I see. And what I see happening is that these players are coming in and getting these deals. Now, does Philadelphia come across to you as a place where players want to come to?
I think it's a very established hockey town.
Yes.
And it's a big market town.
It's a tough market town.
It's a tough market town, but it's not New York Rangers. It's not a nice destination like LA or Tampa Bay.
Right.
But I believe it to be a good hockey organization. It's not like you're going to the Florida Panthers, which isn't a great organization, but it may be a nice destination. It's not like you're,
going to
Columbus, Ohio, or some team, and that doesn't really have a hockey. The Atlanta Thrashers back in the day that don't have any recognition. They're fans of, what hockey is. But they continuously do that. I agree. Like at some point, maybe you have to swing for the fences and get a guy that you need to push you over the edge. But I don't think we're at that point. I don't think we've been at that point for quite some time. Now, Hextall did the same thing when he brought in James Van Riemsdyk, a 5-year, $35 million contract for a $7 million per year player, which he did great in Toronto. He had a 36 goal, year before he came to the Flyers. But let's take it at its face value. He's playing at better players. He also had a one really good year up there. Now, where did you base that contract off of? Because like I pointed out, a player that's came out of the same draft in the 2007 draft in the first round was Max Pacioretty, who was drafted 20 spots after JVR. I'm sorry. Yeah. And, he has more goals. He has amassed more goals, more assists, more total points. And at the same time, he averaged a plus 61 rating in his career when JVR is a huge minus player. So why is he getting a contract like this for 1 year? We didn't like the way he was playing here to begin with. So we got rid of him. The team got rid of him.
Yeah.
Just to bring him back a few years later. And
And give him this big major deal.
I mean, I get it. He had a great year, but 1 year doesn't constitute such a huge overpaying contract. But it doesn't stop with the offense. We can move on to the defense, guys. Provorov. Provorov is hands down our best defenseman. Nobody's arguing that, guys. Nobody's arguing that. At such a young age of what, 24 now?
Yeah.
He's already our best player on defense. Nobody's saying that. But why did Chuck Fletcher give him such a big deal? Okay. A 6-year, $40.5 million contract, paying him $6.75 million a season. Okay. Yes. I believe he will be worthy of that contract at some point, but he isn't right now. And why didn't he get a bridge deal when other players that are young, like, let's see, who do I compare him to? We got Shea Theodore of the Golden Knights. At 23 years old, a year before Provorov signed this deal, he signed a 7-year deal at just $36.4 million a year. Quite significant drop, guys. Not even a 6 million.
Yeah.
And he's got a longer deal. Or how about the Blue Jackets, Zach Werenski? He signed one paying him $5 million a year. And so did the Bruins' Charlie McAvoy, who's at just 21 years old. He signed a deal at $14.7 million for 3 years, putting him under $5 million a year. And if you look at McAvoy's numbers and all these other players' numbers I just said, they're amazing.
And McAvoy even played with not that much good of a defense either this year in Boston. Right. I mean, Boston played okay. I mean, they made it to the playoffs, but and he was even in the running for the Norris too.
Yes.
Look, Lance, I get it. Okay, there's, like I said, the list is as long as my arm. You know what I mean, of players that GMs have brought in. But I think you bring out a really interesting point here. And that's something I want to kind of focus on here. And I think it's something that's a little bit under noticed. Does it seem like that each GM inherits the previous GM's mess?
Sure.
I mean, like, over the last 10 years or so, okay, the team has been ultra cap strapped. And the next general manager has had their hands tied, and not been able to do anything really, as far as trying to significantly improve the team. So when you don't have a lot of money to significantly improve the team, then you kind of are left with those bottom of the barrel free agent guys. And, hey, I need to fill out my roster. So, hey, let's give this guy a call, give him a quick contract, and, here you go.
Well, yes. I think Hextall was given the worst deal of the bunch, dealing with what Holmgren turned over to him. He was able to get rid of, Vinny Lecavallier's contract. He was able to get rid of Chris Pronger's contract, who wasn't even playing anymore. He was able to get that off the books. He did amazing things to get his team some cap space. But then again, he just blew it on James Van Riemsdyk, and brought in some, big players there. But the point is, you got to work with what you got. And when you're signing these deals, especially your own players, you have to learn to allow salary to grow in response to a player's value, and not expect the player to grow into that salary that you're paying them.
Yeah,
that is the key point to this, guys.
Yeah, instead of growing into your salary, hey, how about if we pay you to what your level is, and then once you start getting better, hey, we'll give you another contract. What do you know? So, like I said, it's got to be a little bit of a changing of the guard here, because the original thinking was you came in, you played your entry-level contract. Now, some guys were able to go above and beyond because they were just that good, to where they were able to say, yeah, we need to sign this guy to the bridge deal now instead of the ELC. Okay. So you're going to have some of those guys, obviously. But the fact of the matter is that I think we're going to have a bit of a changing of the guard here with the way guys are brought in, the way guys are paid, and then rewarding players with these huge contracts when they're in their, mid 30s. I mean, they tried to get rid of that when they did all those, oh, you can't have these back end loaded contracts like they were doing. You know what I mean? Where they'd have the front end was all light and then the back end was all heavy loaded so that, to the end of the contract, they're getting paid big money.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like they try to, factor that out of the game or whatever from, getting away from that, which, okay, but I just don't understand why the team continually does this year after year, general manager after general manager. I mean, do you read a lot about this with other teams?
Some have to though, because of, like you said, they're a team where nobody really wants to go and play. But a team like Philadelphia shouldn't have to do it. They're a well-established organization. They had great ownership. They had a great fan base. I mean, you look at the players who played here, and once they do play here, guys don't usually go back to where they came from. They stick around here because they like the area. They are beloved by their fans like nowhere else. And
agreed. Agreed.
You see that once they go and around the league, people talk about Philadelphia and the fans, and hey, if you put forth an effort every night, this town will love you and worship you. And but they are knowledgeable enough to call you out when you mess up, and you have to respect that. But they're not one of those teams that need to overspend, but they continually do so.
That's what I don't understand. And I don't really understand why they keep doing it. I really
don't see it. And any strong GM should be able to, just like I did in this article, put out facts. Hey, look, that's great. You're this player. You had this many points this season. You have a career plus minus rating of this, or your goals against average or save percentage is this,
or whatever.
Let's look at facts. This player, and this player in the league had the same numbers, same number of wins, same number of stats as you, and they're getting paid this. You're asking for this absorbent amount. Tell me how you think you're any different than this guy. The league average for your type player is this. So this is what I'm going to offer you. And I will be more than happy to reward you if you exceed this contract with a much greater contract next year. But let's go ahead and sign this deal now and show me that you deserve more. And that's what you do. These guys are restricted free agents that we're overpaying, and that shouldn't be a thing, guys.
Yeah,
if that's okay, if you have to sign that one guy and bring him in as an unrestricted free agent and you have to overpay him, but to overpay your own guys that you drafted, facts are facts, and you should be able to put them in front of a legal representation or manager or whatever they got and say, facts are facts. This is what you are and this is what you're worth.
Here it is in black and white.
In current market.
Here it is in black and white. Here's your stats. Here's guys that are the same age as you, the same situation as you, the same position, and this is what they're making and this is what they're doing. So Exactly. Where is the reasoning? Where is the justification for that kind of expenditure of money, especially when Philadelphia over the last 10 years historically has not had money to spend in the off season. You know what I mean? Over the last, say, 10 years, Philadelphia really has never been a splash in the market. Let's face it, picking up Hayes is not the big, would not be like getting Eichel, right? Getting JVR from Toronto would not be like landing in Austin Matthews. I mean, you know what I
I'd
mean?
rather see a couple of deals, more like, if we're not going to make that huge deal like you're talking about. I'd rather seen smaller deals like Montreal made to get Tyler Tonolfi and stuff like that, who wasn't a
Yeah,
$8-9 million player, but
yeah,
certainly played like one this
or
year.
guys that like what Tampa Bay did.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, the
there's
way
I
Tampa
mean,
Bay went out and got their players, and none of those guys are making eight. Now, I mean, now obviously Kucherov is, and
right.
that kind of stuff. But they didn't go out and get Kucherovs. They went out and got guys like Goudreau, who's only making not 7, 8, $9 million a year.
He's not even making $1 million right now.
Okay, so you get what I'm saying here. Okay, so.
You gotta build the team, and you can't overspend. Like Provorov is getting paid over $1.5 million more than those other guys I mentioned a year. Why? Why?
That
You
doesn't
you
make any
can't
sense.
you can't
Yeah,
grow into your contracts, guys. You can't grow
yeah,
into your contracts. You got to pay them what they're worth at the current time.
yeah. I
But
agree,
let's. I
100%.
digress. Let's move forward
Yeah,
with
we're gonna.
our
Yeah,
segment here.
yeah, we're going to take a little quick break and have a word from our sponsor. And man, I'll tell you what, we really appreciate everything that Canine Country Club Resorts does for supporting SteelFlyers All Sports Network. Really appreciate everything that they do. You can check them out on the web at www.cccresorts.com, or you can check them out on Facebook. Just remember to get your calls in now, because their groomers are getting pretty booked up. The pool's open, especially the outdoor one, now that it's all baking in the hot. Now a lot of places now are pretty smoking sweltering hot. So get your dogs out there in the pool. They will love it, and so will you. So check them out on the web at www.cccresorts.com, and or check them out on Facebook. And we'll be right back right after these messages. Greetings. This is Steel Flyers from the Steel Flyers All Sports Network, and we have two very special guests. We are delighted to be joined by Tracy Musser and Nicole Howard from the Canine Country Club Resorts. Tracy and Nicole are both managers for CCC Resorts and work at the Windsor or at the club, one of two locations both in Manheim, Pennsylvania. Congratulations on your 30th year anniversary of being in business. Let me start off by saying this. Steel Flyer stands behind this company 100%. Taking care of Steel Flyer's furry friend for the last 2 years now, and they are a one-stop shop for everything your furry friend needs. In fact, let's find out what our friends at CCC Resorts offer. Nicole, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Doing great, thank you. What are some of the great boarding services that you guys offer, and what do we have to do in order to get our furry friends taken care of when we are unable to travel with them?
Well, we like to bring everybody in for a tour first. That way they can see the behind the scenes, they can see where they stay, they can see where they play, and then we explain all of the fun things that we can add on to their reservation, whether it be one of our packages, either a nature walk, a ball time, or even a cuddle time.
Oh, wow, that sounds great. Boy, it sure sounds like a resort to me. So how are you today, Tracy?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Tracy, tell me, is it true that you guys have both an indoor and an outdoor pool at the Windsor location?
It is true. We've got one of each, so we're able to offer year-round swimming. The indoor pool is a great option for dogs who are swimming for therapy or rehab. It's got that sloped entry so they can wade into the water. Our outdoor pool is a little bit larger, and it's 4 foot deep the whole way across. And both of them are saltwater pools, so it's really easy on the dog's skin and coat.
Wow, that's very awesome. So then during the summer months, you have a much deeper pool outside and then a sloped entry shallow pool indoors for the dogs. Tracy, tell the folks how we can get some pool time.
Well, the first thing everyone does is come for an intro swim. We use that time to make sure the dog is comfortable in the water. We make sure they know how to get out of the pool safely, and we go over all the pool rules and etiquette with the clients as well. After that, they're able to schedule private appointments where they have the pool to themselves, or they can invite friends and have a whole group swim going on.
So after a dip in the pool, then it would have to be off to the groomers, right? I mean, our furry friends cannot go out looking their best. Nicole, what are some of the great services your top-notch groomers provide?
Our groomers, they specialize in full service grooms. We can do the basics, whether it be just a bath and a brush out or a blowout. Or for the extra pampered pooches, we can do nail dremels, we can do deodorizing soaks, and also facials.
Wow, man, that sounds like a resort if you ask me. Tracy, I know one of the main programs here at CCC Resorts is the WAGS program. The Steel Flyers dog is enrolled in this program. So why don't you tell the folks what is involved in this and how they can get enrolled?
Yeah, the WAGS program is our primary daycare option at the Windsor. It's designed to be a structured program for people who are looking for a set routine for their dog. They all come on the same days each week, which allows them to have set friends, and we know exactly what's going on with each group. So we do a little bit more activities and we build more into their daily routine there. But we've got other daycare options as well for people looking for a little less commitment. We do an hourly care where you can drop them off and just pay by the hour. We also do a day stay option, which is great for the dogs that prefer human friends instead of making friends with other dogs. And then we have a traditional daycare option as well if you're looking for the occasional outing for your dog.
Wow, there you have it. A full service groomer, a daycare program, and an indoor and outdoor pool. What more could you ask for? Sure seems like CCC Resorts has everything covered. Remember, DOG, depend on God. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for checking us out. We're right back here now, especially after a word from our sponsors at Canine Country Club Resorts. Check them out online at www.cccresorts.com, or you can check them out on Facebook. All right, Lance, here we go. This is something that we've been looking forward to here that we wanted to get into. Earlier this week, early last week, I guess, Lance said, "Hey, let's get some questions and get some fan input." And so, Lance, what'd you do, man? You got us a couple questions, didn't you?
Yeah, there was a couple of people out there that, this is an interesting time of year. A lot of people have a lot of hopes and dreams out there. I love this time. It's like Christmas for me. It's a fresh start. You can get out there and you can make some additions to your team, and everybody's hoping for this player or that player, and has a lot of questions and up in the air things like what the team might do. So
Plus,
I thought
the draft is coming up.
The draft is out there, so
expansion draft. Oh man.
This is a very intriguing off season, and one that could definitely change the team. So I thought it would be a good idea to get out there and get some questions answered from some fans that were already kind of poking and prodding me for some different things that I thought. So I thought this would be a good gig here.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, first of all, what I would like to do is say that thank you all very much for submitting your questions. We will try to get to all of them. We're not making any promises because depending on how much time we spend on each question. But if we don't get to your question this time around, we will be sure to try and get to your question the next time for sure. So thank you very much for those of you that did submit your questions, and we really appreciate that. All right, here we go, man. The first one. And I'm going to start off with the one that you have on the top of the list. And this is from listener Joey Gallagher. That's his handle on Twitter, at Joey_Gallagher. And he asked, and this is a rather lengthy one here, so bear with me. I watch the Islanders go deep in the playoffs every year playing a disciplined defensive system. Do you think they, the Flyers, will try to instill a new defensive system this coming year? They just don't have the guys to be playing this wide open style anymore. I have to agree that really, for the most part, the only real piece he has added has been Hayes. He tried to get Niski, but he retired. Chuck has not really done much else to put a stamp on this team, has he? Well, Mr. Green, what do you think of that question from Mr. Joey Gallagher?
So I think we already kind of addressed the second part of that. So what I have to say on that, I think AV's defensive system is fine, but the team has the wrong personnel to run it correctly, in my mind. Maybe the wrong defensive coach to run it as well, but the system comes from AV, and I think it's a good one defensively. It calls for defensive defensemen that play and offensemen that play 200-foot game, but the team doesn't simply have that, and we need to build towards that to make the system work. It's compressed of mostly offensive defensemen, which we've talked about before. And they need to trade some and make some major moves to bring in some staff to help this. We have too many guys that are back there trying to score in Provorov, Myers, Sanheim, Ghost, the list goes on, that all want to jump up in the play and all want to make, a goal or something like that. Now, Chuck is rumored to be keeping an eye on an unrestricted defenseman, Adam Larson, who, Steel, I'm very high on. He's from the Oilers.
Yeah.
He's a career
Ekman
plus
Larson.
player.
Yeah.
Adam Larson, I think.
Adam Larson.
Adam Larson. Yeah.
Okay.
A career plus player who's a right-hand shot, finished 10th this season in hits, which we know we need, and second in block shots this season with 128. All good stay-at-home defensive defenseman pieces.
See that big, giant, ugly smile on my face? Yeah.
Right,
Oh, sorry.
right. So that is the type of person that we need to come in to play alongside Provorov, who likes to jump into the play and make this system work.
Yeah.
We can't have a bunch of defensemen who all they want to do is run up and score goals. And that's all that the team seems to be bringing in.
Exactly.
Hextall drafted a bunch of them, yes, but what did, Chuck Fletcher do? He went out and got Gustafsson this year, who is the offensive defenseman. It just didn't work. He's doing okay up in Montreal now, good riddance, but we had too many of them to fit. So that's what I think, Joey, as far as your question goes.
I think it's a really good question, Joey, because the Islanders have a much more base defensive system that Barry Trotz puts in place.
Mm-hmm.
But they also, like you have pointed out as well, where this is what the Flyers have been lacking, where, everybody looks at the Islanders and go, well, wow, man, they're, consistently in it every year. Well, they have players that play that system very, very well. Okay. And that goes a long way with being able to have the personnel to being able to put a team out there on the ice that has that type of defensive system. I agree with you, Lance. I think AV does have a good defensive system. The reason why I say it's a good defensive system is because he wants offense and defense to be accountable. Okay. If you're a defenseman, then you need to be defenseman first. If you're, a winger, then you do the winger first. And then, you know what I mean? That's why I think he has a good system, because he's trying to make offensive guys and defensive guys be responsible for the entire sheet of ice instead of just 50 feet or 80 feet or whatever the case is. So you pointed that out. I think that's the major reason why the Flyers don't have that consistent defensive style system like the Islanders do, or even, pick a team that
Tampa,
any other team.
Same thing. They're physical too, and we're not physical.
Yeah.
You can't knock guys off the puck if you're not willing to put a body on them.
Exactly.
To create a turnover and get the puck back. So both being physical helps and having the right personnel to run that system. Now, AV has sat there and tried, especially in his first season here, to do that. He tried to get them to snap into shape and play the system correctly. But I think the majority of the team is just following suit behind key players who have been here for a long time, who we pointed out in past shows. Drew Voracek, and just go along with it and are failing to change the ways. So anyway.
Okay. I mean, it's the fact of the matter is that Chuck needs to give AV the players
the right pieces, yes,
to put into that particular system in order for it to work. Okay, and yeah, I agree. He hasn't really done much of anything other than bring Hayes in, and we both agree that Hayes was just brought in to kind of soften the blow of the system with the players because AV had already coached Hayes with the Rangers in the past. So that's why we both kind of feel that. But still, it's a great question, Joey, and thank you very much for submitting that. We really do appreciate that. So I think
you can't play chess with a bunch of pawns. You can't play chess with all pawns, and that's what we have. We have a bunch of different pieces that are unable to move where they truly should, and it's just that. But let's move
analogy.
on. Yeah?
That's a great analogy too, though, man. That's a really great analogy. You can't play chess with you need the rooks, you need the rooks, you need the bishops, you need the you need
knights,
you need the knights, you need all that stuff. So all right, well, we're gonna move on to question number 2 here, and that would be Jona Gustafsson asked. By the way, that was just a fake accent. I have no idea, but
Johan Gustafsson.
Gustafsson asked.
Sure.
This will be a little bit of a long one too, so bear with me as well as I'm going to read this one. Teams with strongest goalie tandems in the finals. Flyers need to upgrade the backup who? Chuck seemed to have drafted relatively well, but has not really done too much to improve this team for the most part, and I'm not getting the warm and fuzzies with the re-signing of German and Sandin, as well as the whole odd Sandstrom re-signing. So I gotta tell you, that's a lot. Let's start off with Flyers need a backup goalie. Strongest goalie tandems in the finals. Yep. Flyers need to upgrade the backup, but who? Let's broach that one first.
I think we addressed the second part of that in a recent show anyway, with when I wrote the articles about re-signing German and everything else. I think we touched on that. So I think I think we beat that dead horse. So let's go with the strongest goalie tandems. It is a thing that I also wrote about. I think they need to upgrade the goalie, the 1A, if you will, for sure. So my quick answer to do that, which they could automatically do, is to sign a undrafted free agent in Chris Driedger, who is 27 years old and made just $850K last season for the Panthers. He has a career 2.09 GAA with a .929 save percentage. Okay, he doesn't have a whole lot of time in the league, but he's played well in the minor leagues for the Florida Panthers. And let's face it, he's now going to be pushed out of a job, being that the all-powerful Spencer Knight is there in Florida. Okay, everybody seems to be all over him. Now, another option is my mind that would be a good pickup, trade route, if they wanted to go a trade route, would be Johan Korpisalo from the Blue Jackets. I like Elvis as well, but I think Elvis is their number one guy now. Columbus has a plethora of guys in the system.
Most Lincolns. Most Lincolns.
So they have a plethora of guys in their system. Even in the AHL and everything else, they have some great Russians down there, some Finnish some great players. Anyway, moving on. And I think Korpisalo could be moved in a trade for Seth Jones if the rumors being true that we are pretty hot and heavy as the Flyers are on him. So we could make that a kind of package deal for both of them and knock two birds out with one stone in that trade. So
Well,
there's that.
we might get into that one later, but
We might.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
that for
So
sure.
let's stop there. But those are two goalies. Again, I
Real
was a
quick.
goalie for a long time, and I like both of those goalies to be a much upgrade over Brian Elliott, and both those guys are younger than Elliott and could be here for a couple of years. They're not going to take all of Carter Hart's spotlight, but they are both suitable to come in and face any team in the NHL that they need to, not just the bottom dwellers.
Okay, because that's exactly what the team needs. You need a backup goalie in there that's going to be able to play, upwards of 25 games and win 80% of those games. And they're going to need to be those type of goalies that can play those back-to-back games against Boston, against Pittsburgh, against the Rangers, against the Capitals, against the good teams. Because let's face it, the Flyers don't have back-to-backs against Arizona usually. I mean, they have back-to-backs against Boston, the Rangers, Capitals, Pittsburgh. I mean, what? I'm just going based off of where they play and who they play and what they play. All right. I also have to say this too. I agree with you on those two goalies. I like Chris Driedger. He played really well down there in Florida this year in lieu of Bob not playing very well. Okay. Didn't really have it put together there in the playoffs. But then again, the team kind of let him down a little bit there too. So I'd be all right with him. I think
they lost their number one defenseman too. Let's remember that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But I also like the Corpusalo too. I like that little move there too. I think that's.
I think he makes
like that move better.
$2.8 million. I think he makes 2.8 currently. So that's pretty affordable. It's an upgrade.
That's going
to
be right about where we're going to have to pay Carter Hart. Because this is why this is such a great question, because the backup is going to be very much determined by how much they pay Carter Hart. And if they pay Carter Hart, let's just speculate, shall we? They pay Carter Hart $2.7 million a year. What do you think? Am I too far?
No, not. I used Corpusalo in a piece, I believe, recently, and as a good reference point, for him, obviously, in this last one, and that's how I put out there that how they could do that in the future.
3 years.
Yes, yeah, good 3-year deal.
2.7 million for 3 years.
Yeah, as long as it stays under 3, I'm okay with it.
Okay, all right.
And Corpusalo, if you wanted to look at things for a reference point, Corpusalo played about the same amount of games, won the same amount of games, and had a better goals against average and a save percentage than Carter Hart this year. So that plateau is where the team should be at moving forward, and that's how they could prove that, like you said, black and white, reference to base his salary off of. Okay. Everything is based off of what have you done for me lately? It's a business deal. It's last season when he carried the team in the playoffs a bit, that was last year. What have you done for me lately?
That's great.
You can't get wrapped up into another big deal, overpaying deal. Okay, let him prove himself again, and then pay him the big bucks. Okay, we don't need to pay him like he's Carey Price right now.
I agree. I'm so with you. Look, I love the answer to that because I agree with you 100%. I love both of those goalies. I like the Corpusalo one better because I also agree that if the team is going to try to get Seth Jones, try not to give up too much for him.
We'll get to that.
But all right, all right. So the other part of the question is that the really piece that he's added is Hayes. We touched on that too. We agree.
I think we hit that second part previously in other shows and in this show. So we'll skip ahead to try to get to other people's questions here.
Yeah, I got you. For sure. So thank you very much, Johan, for that question. Great,
Yeah.
great bunch of questions, though. For sure. We also agree with some of the not having the warm and fuzzies about what's going on there with the German and the Sandin signing as well too, and then the Sandstrom issue as well too. So thank you very much for submitting that question. All right, we're moving on to the next question, and oh my, this is going to be at L Crockatoo 67. Yes, I believe I said that right. That is at L. That's the letter L. Crockatoo 67. Ask this great question. Any word on Morgan Frost? How is he progressing physically, and will he be ready for the start of training camp? And as we both know, as we all know, Morgan Frost went down at the beginning of the year with an injury that unfortunately kept him out for the entire season. Okay, so all right, how's he progressing? What's any word?
Yes. So previous to this question being asked, I was inquisitive on how he was doing. I didn't hear much on my terms, so I reached out to my good buddy Bill Meltzner and caught up with him and put a bug in his ear about this not too long ago, and he said that he is 100% and that he got that very shortly after the Flyers regular season was over.
Yeah.
So he is 100%. He did end up going back to Canada for the summer, where he's from, and let's hope he hits the gym, guys. Let's hope he takes a page out of Farabee's book and puts some muscle on, and really
Like
come back.
17 odd pounds would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Take a book.
we
Call
need him.
Joel up.
So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, so he will be there for bearing any injury this offseason. Let's knock on wood. He will be there for training camp for sure.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal. That's great to hear. Great question. Thank you very much for that question, because I too have been, you see a player that you have a lot of high hopes and a lot of high expectations for at the beginning of the season, and they go down, and then you don't hear much anything until, the next season starts up, and you're like, oh, hey, who's this guy? Oh, he was out injured last year. Oh, right. Okay. So thank you very much for at L Crockatoo 67 for that great question. We're moving on to the next question, and this is from Twitter handle at JRF Golf 12. That's JRF Golf 12. And they asked, my popular opinion is that they should trade Coots.
Unpopular opinion.
My unpopular, sorry. See, I'm reading these, so you'll have to excuse my. All right, I think I got them readjusted here. Hold on. All right. My unpopular opinion is that they should trade Coots. Value high, bad knees. They need a total rebuild. Thoughts? Well, JRF Golf 12, I got to tell you, that's a pretty big question. And unpopular with trading Coots. Honestly, you know what? I see where you're going with that. Okay. I'm trying to have an open mind here. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to think outside the box a little bit. And I see where they're going with that, because think about it. If you have a guy who potentially has some bad knees, he's won a Selke trophy, he's got some serious value right now. Get something for the guy. You know what I mean? So that you can, bring in some more draft. Like I said, I'm just saying I can think outside the box too. I understand where JRF Golf 12 is coming from. However, one word for you. Are you ready for it? No!
Yeah, I have to
agree. Couturier would be a big, huge, holy moly, in big letters, bold-faced, front page. No!
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Steel. Definitely disagree with the belief of trading Coots. He is the next captain of this team. If you ever been to a team's practice, he's usually one of the first ones on the ice, and he is almost always the last one off, staying after to put in OT to work on his craft. He is a career plus 88 or something like that. I think plus 88 right now. But we need more players like him. We don't need to lose him.
Yeah.
If you read one of my recent articles of comparing the team to the Tampa Bay Lightning and their players, their team is filled with this type player of just defensively responsible players, and that's why they were where they are today. And they have built their team around these type players, and we need to do so too, and get more players in like him, in my mind. As far as his knees go, everybody's got some injuries over the years. He's played a long time. He's usually been in the lineup year in and year out for almost every game. He is a consummate professional, and he gives it his all, and that's why he's, when he's out on the ice, he has to take out all the teeth and set them up on the old stand there, because he leaves nothing out on the ice except his teeth. So
I'm with you though. I look, like I said, I can understand thinking outside the box as to why you would want to do something like that, because he's still at a young enough age where you could get some pretty darn good value for him right now. Sure. I mean, and that would definitely signify a rebuild, I think, for the Flyers.
Yeah, it's going to set us back another 5 years at least.
Yeah, I don't see. I'm going to go back to this. I've been going back to this now. What I believe, this is just my opinion. It's what I feel. It's what I think. It's here. This is what I think right here. What Chuck does this offseason is going to affect this team for the next 5 years. And frankly, I don't think that Chuck is going to be here to see those 5 years, which is why I'm so worried about what he's going to do this offseason. Because this offseason is a very, very key offseason, being that it's the expansion draft, meaning you have to have a list of protected players and a list of unprotected players, meaning that the team is going to lose somebody. Somehow, some way, some shape or form, the team is going to lose somebody. End of story. Okay. And now you're going to have to draft, right? You're going to have a little bit of cap space. You got to sign Carter Hart. You got to get a defenseman. You got to get, I mean, it's not a complete rebuild. It's a retooling, I would say. But you don't need a whole team. You just need some key spots, key places, key players. You could get that right-hand shot defenseman who could also be that physical guy that's also that policeman. That's multiple boxes you could check off with one player. You know what I'm saying? You could bring in a guy like Korpisalo or Driedger to be that number 2 goalie. Bang, there you go. That's under the cap. It's affordable. Boop, another thing checked off, right? These are the kinds of deals that the Flyers need to be making now, not these Gustafsson 3-point whatever $1 million deals, Braun 3-point whatever $1 million deals for how long. I mean, no, that's not the kind of things that do this. It's not a rebuild, I don't think. I think it's a retooling. In my opinion, I believe what happens this offseason is going to affect this team in the next 5 years. Just my opinion.
For sure. I think, Chuck, the sounds of it, like we said so many times before, it sounds good what he's doing. He's keeping tabs on Adam Larson. He's all but got a deal, supposedly, all rumors at this point, but deep in talks with Columbus for Seth Jones. That's all well and good that he's doing that, but will he be able to get it done? And that's the key. I think after this off season, even at game 1, I think his job is going to be judged very harshly from this off season. And if he does not bring in the pieces and they start to lose, he may be out of a job pretty quick. So,
which is why I said that
Yeah.
if what he
Yes.
does this offseason is going to affect his team for the next 5 years, I don't think he's going to be there to see it.
Sure.
You know what
All
I mean?
right, let's hit one of these other questions.
Okay.
I'm having fun.
All right, yeah, man, we're getting him wound up. See, I knew this was going to happen. I knew it. So thank you, JRF Golf 12, for that question. Really appreciate that. Our next to last question, our penultimate question, is from Smitty77. Thank you very much for submitting your question. Really appreciate that. And what Smitty77 asks, any thoughts on the Flyers pursuing or kicking the tires on Quinn Hughes?
Okay. Quick answer, no. For a couple reasons. Quinn is a restricted free agent, which means his team could match anything the Flyers offer, and that's fine. I like the idea of going after a restricted free agent, but not him.
Okay.
His team has a bit more cap space than the Flyers, although they have some open spaces on the roster that they're going to need to fill too. I think that he's one that they will definitely match. Plus, he's a left-hand shot defenseman. We don't need that. We have our own very young Cameron York, who is a left-hand shot as well. Also, Quinn is a minus 34 in his career. He's another offensive defenseman who neglects to play defense at all. So, no thank you in my mind for this guy, but I'm actually working on a piece currently that I won't give away, but for possibly poaching a defenseman off of a team and possibly some other players who have a much smaller cap space going into next season, that they're going to have a lot more trouble in matching a deal if we did try to go after a restricted free agent again, like they did prior with Shea Weber. No, it's not that kind of huge deal, but not everyone needs to be a super elite star deal that you're going to poach a restricted free agent.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
No thank you on the Quinn Hughes, in my thoughts, and that only.
Okay.
He is a good young defenseman, but we have too many like him on the team already, and we're not looking for a left-hand shot.
See, that's kind of where I was going to go. He's just basically being added into the carousel of, well, it's a revolving carousel of the same kind of player.
Yeah.
You know, that the Flyers have a stable full of, you know. I'm not saying that he's not a good player. I'm not saying that it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. I just agree. I think we've already got plenty of those players on this team, and we don't need somebody like that on this team. We're trying to go. If you need to have an AV system, you need to have guys that are a little bit more physical, which doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, about why he's ultimately has taken almost all the physicality out of the game. But yet you need to be physical and you need to be responsible in order to play a 200-foot game. Anyway, I digress. I want to get to the last.
That's part of Chuck Fletcher's fault too for trading Ratko Gudas for Niskanen, who led the team who led the whole NHL in hits this season, and who was defensively responsible for us. So we kind of gave away our only piece like that. So that's making matters worse. That was handed to him. He traded away the only.
Not good.
So I'll digress on that as well.
Right. So, like I said, but Smitty, really appreciate your question. Smitty77, really appreciate your question. We don't feel that kicking the tires on Quinn Hughes is what the Flyers need to do, but great question though. Really appreciate that. It shows that you have some outside the box thinking, and I get where you're going though. You know what I mean? I really appreciate that. So we do like good young defensemen. It's just that we feel that we have plenty of guys that are kind of already in that same kind of level. So
bold,
all right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Last question that we got here submitted by Flyers OFF. Okay. And thank you very much for submitting the last question here. And this is what we said we were going to get to. We saved the best one for last. So here you go. Would you make the trade to get Seth Jones? And if so, what are you willing to give up to get him? So, at Flyers OFF, thank you very much for the question. We really appreciate that. So, like we said, we saved the best one for last because we felt this was going to be all right. It's
All
the
right.
elephant in the room. It really is, because I don't care, no matter what, if you've had your ear to any hockey news in the last 5 days or more, you could not have not heard any kind of rumors about the Philadelphia Flyers being interested in acquiring Seth Jones. Mr. Lance, what say you on Mr. Seth Jones?
All right. So he would be my second option in my mind, behind Adam Larson. I really like him. He wouldn't cost us anything besides capital. But in the same token, who wouldn't want a former first-round pick that's 26 years old and a right-hand shot defenseman who plays 25 minutes a night in Seth Jones? Great player, on a horrible team, needs a change. All the things are great. As far as what I would be willing to give up for him, it depends, going back to the other thing, if Korpisalo or somebody else was thrown in for it as a package deal. But going off of basic, just trying to acquire him by himself, a lot of rumors are floating around, and who knows what they're talking about. I've heard Konechny, I've heard Farabee, I've heard Felipe Myers. No thank you to any of those. I would try to trade Sanheim in my mind. He's a left-hand shot defenseman. He wouldn't replace Seth Jones by any means on the right-hand side, but it isn't a person that we could get rid of easily and replace with a guy like Cameron York or Igor Zumala next year, in my mind. And it wouldn't hurt as much, and we would get that top pairing defenseman that we need. Now,
hold on. So you put Seth Jones up there with Provorov then?
Yes, he would be a top pairing defenseman with Provorov, proven player who plays that kind of minutes already. But I would be willing to give him Sanheim, who needs a new contract this year anyway, and a second this year is what I would offer to start off talks with him. Now, here's the reasoning behind that. If you look at the current market, seeing that Nashville just traded a former 30-goal scorer and a 28-year-old Victor Arvidsson.
Yep.
Today, we're filming this right now.
July 1st.
Right, July 1st. They traded him for a 2021 second-round pick and a 22 third-round pick, and that happened today. So that's kind of your current market. Yes, they're not the same position player, but that's a player with some pretty strong play, 30-goal scorer twice over, I believe, that LA was just able to pick up for basically a couple picks. So if
second-round picks, even at that.
Right, second-round pick and a third-round pick at that. And you got to remember, Seth Jones is not some player that people just want and are calling about. He's a player that they're calling about because he's already told Columbus that he wants to go to free agency and he wants to go test the market after next season when his contract expires. So Columbus is in a bit of a bind. They need to get rid of him by next season, or next trade deadline at least, because they're going to lose him for nothing if they don't. So to get the most value for him would be to trade him this offseason.
I got you. Okay. If he's going to be willing to see, I'm going to need some caveats here. Okay. And the reason why I'm going to say some caveats is this. I would not have a problem with any of the things that you said, any of those players that you mentioned either. Would not have a problem with doing that at all. Would not have a problem with giving up a second round draft pick this year and or even next year.
Mm-hmm.
Give them both of them. What? Right?
Well, I would put it
hold
as
on.
okay.
No, wait, hold on. Wait, hold on. Right. Here's the only other thing that I would have to be on the stipulation on this is that Seth Jones has to then agree to sign an immediate extension with the Flyers so that what he's telling Columbus, hey, I want to test free agency after my contract is up. Well, if I'm trading to get you, I'm not trading all these assets to get you for one bloody season, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
You better sign on the dotted line for an extension.
Okay. Well, here's my thing on that is the Flyers don't have the cap space now, but we do have Giroux coming off next season. So if they needed more and they weren't willing to accept my trade offer, I would be willing to throw in a conditional, maybe third round pick if he signed at the end of next season. So then they would,
you're saying add a conditional pick.
Add a conditional pick. If he does sign back with the Flyers, then send another pick over if for a toss in if he then signs. So then, it still gives him something, if he signs, but you're not giving so much up at the front end of things. And like
you're protecting
saying,
yourself on the back end.
You're protecting yourself on the back end, but you don't have to. He signed for, I think, $5 million or something, which is reasonable for a player of his stature, and certainly one that plays as many minutes as he does. But you wouldn't have to renegotiate a contract and start to pay him potentially this year money that we don't really have, that we will have once maybe Giroux comes open and renegotiates a new contract or is let walk or whatever happens at the end of next season. Who knows?
Okay. All right. So there you have it. Honestly, I'm with you, though. I like the Larson deal better.
Yeah.
And I would much rather try to get the goalie out of Columbus instead of Seth Jones. You know what I mean?
And if Adam Larson, he looks like he's going to sign with Edmonton, but the Flyers are rumored to be keeping close tabs on that in case he does not agree to it. They're going to be right there. But, if he doesn't, yes, Seth Jones would be my close second, but I would want to try to make it a package deal then and try to get Korpisalo, one trade, get two, check marks, like you said, off this season before anything. But I would be wanting that to happen after the expansion draft. So
yeah, because that would mean then
Korpisalo would be left open.
Yeah, but that would also mean then that wouldn't Seth Jones have to be protected then?
He would, but if you're gonna
by Columbus.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
if we do this after the expansion draft, right, he would be protected by Columbus and we wouldn't have to worry about. See, that's the thing that I'm also concerned about too. Mm-hmm. Any deal that happens now, that player then would have to either be added to the protected list or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I can understand why maybe nothing's going to happen right this second. But if you're bringing in a guy like Seth Jones, you're going to protect him anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to bring him in to not protect him.
And if you got rid of a guy like Sanheim, you would then be protecting Provorov, Jones, and Myers. And personally, anybody that's left open after that, with Sanheim being gone,
you couldn't. You'd have to be. You'd only get 3 defensemen, so it would have to be.
So anybody past that, okay. If you want them, have at them. Yeah. There's some other pieces offensively that I think are going to be open. And honestly, I don't think guys with especially their coach that's in Seattle now, who likes their third and fourth line players so much as we've seen while he was here in Philly. I honestly think a guy like NAK is going to be the one to be picked
Yeah.
That's just my thoughts and my predictions. I'll make that here. I think NAK is a guy that's going to be picked off the roster, and it won't be, Van Riemsdyk or, whoever you want, Ghost, or whoever
It
you want
might
off the
be.
team to free up some
You
cap
know what
space.
though?
So.
You know what though? Yeah, it's not going to be who we would like it to be.
Right.
Because we want the cap space. But I do believe though that there is a good shot that JVR could be going.
It depends.
And I also agree that there could be a good shot that Gustafson is probably going, or Ghost is probably going to go, because he was the most productive when he was under Coach Hackstall.
Mm-hmm.
He had 62-point season that first year that Hackstall was there, or second year that Hackstall was there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's also had like 2 or 3 knee surgeries.
Oh, right.
So,
okay. But like I said, right.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. He's not going to pick the guy that we would like him to pick, which would be Voracek.
Right.
Right? Because if Voracek's not there and that money's off the books, that changes everything.
Yes.
Because
free agency is a amazing thing then.
Then Flyers can be like, what? What you want? Well, yeah. Well, anyway. Well, there you go. Thank you very much, Flyers OFF, for that great question. And thank you to everybody. We got to all of them, so we ran a little bit late, but we got to all of them. Appreciate everybody submitting your questions. That was man, I'll tell you what,
fun. That was fun.
That was fun. Yeah, there you have it, folks. We got through some really great fan submitted questions, and I hope that we gave you an answer that maybe you could agree with. Or, I mean, maybe not. But we can't thank you enough for submitting these questions, and we really do appreciate this. And we'll be doing this again, so thank you very much. But also like to say congratulations to making Bleacher Reports, man. 33rd week in a row. Wow. That's awesome, dude. Right? Like every time the show comes out, man, we're on Bleacher Reports. All right, cool. There you go. Appreciate that. Also, would like to thank our sponsors, Canine Country Club Resorts. They take care of all your pets' needs, from daycare to spa treatments and even pool time. Check them out on the web at www.cccresorts.com, or you can check them out on Facebook. Well, Lance, what do you think, man?
I think we got another good one in the books there, and I think so. I hope all the fans that submitted the questions feel like we answered them appropriately. Or at least got to pick our brains, and hopefully we did it justice. So
we got to put Lance on the hot seat a little bit there, and we got him a little bit. We got a little smoke coming out of the ears there, so that's all good, man. So keep them coming. Mucho apreciado on those questions. So thank you very much for that. Thank you all, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for watching and checking us out. Please hit the like and subscribe. Also, let us know in the comments what you guys think about the questions that we answered. And if you guys have any more questions, by all means, please feel free. I'm your co-host, SteelFlyers, along with our great and wonderful writer extraordinaire, Lance Green. How you doing, man?
I'm all right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, man. How can we find you, man?
All right. As always, you can find me on Twitter at LNGBASSIST, the number's 39. You can catch all my stuff on FlyersNittyGritty.com, BleacherReport.com, and SteelFlyers.com.
There you go. Thank you all very much for watching us. We'll check you guys out the next time. Thank you.